Are you one of the 9 million Floridians living in a community managed by a property manager or HOA? If you've ever wondered what your rights are as a resident or what your role is as a volunteer board member, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Condo Coaches, your resource for when your gated community starts to feel more like you're stuck behind bars, or when that guy next door decides that a hot pink Chevy on cinder blocks really sets the tone for the neighborhood. The Condo Coaches is brought to you by lmfunding.com. Find the Condo Coaches online at thecondocoaches.com. And now your host, Johnny Torres.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening, watching, wherever you may be doing so. It's the Condo Coaches radio show. We appreciate you watching or listening to the show. Again, you can find us all over the internet. That's Facebook, YouTube, Stitcher, iTunes, and SoundCloud. We love putting the show out there. We love answering your questions, which is what our topic is for the day. And so, we appreciate you interacting with the show, leaving us comments on Facebook, sending us emails, also calling us, Dean, that's what he does on the weekend, instead of playing words with friends, he's actually checking voicemails and seeing how everybody's doing. And so we appreciate getting those calls from you. And you can reach out to us at any time through our website. That's thecondocoaches.com, thecondocoaches.com. There's a few forms on there, how you can get a hold of us. Also, you have our, went blank for a second. All right, our email address, help@thecondocoaches.com, help@thecondocoaches.com. That's our email address. Another great way to get a hold of us, especially if you're busy, because that way we can kind of go back and forth at your pace. So help@thecondocoaches.com, a great way to get a hold of us via email. And then, of course, our phone number. You can call us anytime, 813-331-5415, 813-331-5415. When you call us, all right, you leave us a voicemail, tell us how to get a hold of you, the issue you're dealing with, and that's going to get you plugged into our Condo Coaches network. We're going to pair you up with the person that's going to be able to help you resolve your problem. So phone calls also highly encouraged, because not everything translates over email. Sometimes things get lost in translation when sending us messages, either through social media or through email. So 813-331-5415 is the number. And we're going to get right into today's show. Joining me as always, head coach Dean Akers.
Johnny, how are you today?
Doing amazing. I had a great weekend, pretty busy, but got to do some baseball action this weekend. And the weather could not have been better. And so, never a bad day when you can get some baseball in.
Well, I had a crazy weekend because I took a week off of vacation from my day job.
Yeah.
But guess what vacation you don't get when you have Condo Coaches?
Yeah, it's never a vacation with the Condo Coaches.
No. So I was on the phone this weekend, and we can talk more about it a little bit, but it helps me understand more and more. The more the show's out there, the more calls we're getting. We've got the 2 new books coming out. I'm sure you're going to share with our listeners. Will be out here shortly. We've got a couple more downloads we're going to have. But the biggest thing is I'm seeing consistent questions. And the more we get these consistent questions, it appears to be more that we're going to be able to help groups with and on these issues.
And you definitely see the trend.
Oh,
you're absolutely right.
No question.
And we're going to definitely get into that because today, again, I think we might end up making this a weekly thing or a monthly thing. I'm sorry. We were talking off air about maybe doing the frequently asked questions every month, because it is absolutely necessary. And we hear from so many people on a daily basis.
Well, I know I've gotten comments back from all the other great coaches that have been on the show.
Yep.
I've gotten comments back where, wow, that helped me with my painting issue, or that helped me with this. And it's been very constructive to have the diversity we have, because we've got coaches for everybody.
Sure.
At the end of the day, if there's 10 situations, 8 of them are dealing with what Candace is here for today.
That's right.
Questions about legal. And then the finance side, I keep getting deeper in the communication side. So those 3 are the big deals.
Well, what's funny is that I notice sometimes when I ask you some of the questions that come in via email or social media, and I throw the question at you and I get the deer in the headlights look, and that's like, oh, that's a legal question. Okay, yeah. So
I always qualify Candace. I go, I'm not a lawyer. I don't even play one on the radio,
right,
but I coach you, and
yeah,
I give them coaching.
Yeah, exactly. And so that is a perfect segue into our guest, our most popular guest, I could say, because you are easily on on our most popular videos, be they on YouTube or Facebook. And that's Candace Gundel, our original condo coach is here since episode 1, and you're back. You're also our legal coach, and so thank you for coming back to the show.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Dean.
We're going to keep you busy over the next hour.
Oh, I have no doubt.
You have lots of questions and some great scenarios. And the thing is that I think it shows that we are being effective. The more questions we get, the more email requests, the more workshops we get requested. That shows, obviously, that we're on the right track and that we're providing valuable service out there. Speaking of which, we did get a message on Facebook over the week that was asking us, hey, we're in Pasco County. I have a few issues, nothing major, but I got a few issues I got to work out with my board. I can probably get a few other associations together. Would you guys come out and do a workshop? Answer is absolutely.
Absolutely.
We'll put a team together. We'll figure out a date, time, location, all that stuff. And we would love to do a workshop for you. And so for those of you listening or watching, if you want to do a workshop and you're able, even if it's just for your board, or, if you do want to get some other associations involved and obviously make it a bigger event, that'd be a lot more fun for everyone involved. Let us know. Again, reach out to us on our website, thecondocoaches.com, our email address, help@thecondocoaches.com, or our phone number, 813-331-5415, 813-331-5415. Condo Coaches love doing these workshops because we really get so much knocked out. I mean, and of course, as you say, more often than not, these issues are communication issues. But then, of course, sometimes they're also legal, and those, crossover from time to time. But you can address a lot at once, and you can get into hypothetical scenarios, and you can even do some of the assessments that we always talk about.
Well, one of the cool things that I've noticed lately, I actually had a board we met with not too long ago, is we're all volunteers.
Right.
So nobody's paid. We don't do it to go out and sell our services. But what was funny is in a recent board, we got into kind of a middle of the road kind of advising. And I happened to be there, and you could tell it was getting a little bit opinionated or heated.
Yeah.
And I reminded them, which was kind of funny because everybody did a kind of a check on it when I said, hey, we're here as volunteer coaches. We do not have a dog in this fight.
Right.
And it level set everybody again, and everybody started communicating, because all we're doing is we're coaching from experience. In Candace's case, she's a community association lawyer. There's nothing she hasn't dealt with.
Exactly.
I'm a business owner that's had multiple businesses, so I understand finance and communication on steroids. And then our other coaches that we have, whether it's security, paint, whatever, they get it. And so they're coming out neutral. So when we're engaging, I love to say, we don't have a dog in the fight. We're just giving you real good advice.
Well, and again, oftentimes too, I mean, I'm sure you find that not only is communications a problem, but also there's some relationship problems there. There's some rivalry, some tension for whatever reason. And sometimes, have you seen those get smoothed out as well?
They have when I'm in the middle of them, but they are contentious to start off with.
Sure.
I mean, I had one lady just was livid at her board. And when we walked through and I asked her what was right with her association, she started telling me everything. I said, then where's it wrong? And she goes, well, they just don't communicate. Okay. So the real issue is they don't communicate. And so we were able to really kind of mitigate that. And Candace and I were talking about it on a ride over. We have boards that will go, you have to do an official request for this.
Yeah.
Why not just give it to them?
Yeah.
I mean, it's their records.
Yeah.
Why sit there and go, unless it's in a certified blah, blah, or whatever, just if somebody asks you for the financial statements,
Give it to them.
give it to them.
Yeah. If they send you an email asking you for the financial statements, that should be official enough.
But say they're entitled to it.
Right.
But there's no reason to put blockades up
Sure.
or barriers up or friction points up. Give it to them.
Well, and that's just causing friction. That's making things more complicated
Correct.
for people to communicate. And so that's, I think we would widely discourage that, because I'm sure that's probably a pretty common practice.
And you know what I would suggest too, and it's happened a lot in the financials recently, is I've also found out that the boards that don't want to release the financial information, guess what I believe the number one reason they don't want to release the financial information is?
Because they don't know it. They haven't read it.
and don't understand it.
Yeah.
So right now, we're offered that through our website.
Sure.
And so now I have people sending their balance sheets for 2016 and 2015. We're doing the analysis. And like I say, on several associations, they thought they were in trouble. They were healthy.
Yeah.
Several of them said, I think we're healthy. They were in trouble. So.
Well, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that financial assessment and how exactly to go about not only getting that from us, or maybe even having us do it, but we're going to get into obviously why that's necessary. One of the other emails that we got was actually from Carrie. Carrie, it works for an elevator company, and they said, hey, we'd be interested in being part of the Condo Coaches Network. And of course, we're like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, that goes out to those of you listening who work with other associations, who work in property management, who work in maintenance issues. We would absolutely love to hear from you. We absolutely would love to get you plugged into the Condo Coaches Network. All you've got to do is reach out to us just like everybody else does through our website, thecondocoaches.com. help at thecondocoaches.com if you want to email us, or 813-331-5415, 813-331-5415. And he says he wants to talk about the highs and lows.
I know. We're sending an application out to him.
Perfect. Yeah, excellent. And so we want to send an application to you as well if you think that you have expertise, advice, and some insight that could help other associations around the state of Florida, or even here, because now we're being listened to across the country. We got people as far as Seattle, Washington listening to the show. They're big on the podcast version, which is interesting. Figures the tech town, Seattle, Washington would be into the podcast. But thank you so much for listening, watching the show. We've got 3 more segments coming up. We're doing frequently asked questions with legal coach Candace Gundel, head coach Dean Akers. It's the Condo Coaches Radio Show. And again, to get involved, get plugged in, 813-331-5415, 813-331-5415. Or you can shoot us an email, help@thecondocoaches.com. That's help@thecondocoaches.com. We'll be back after this.
Contact the Condo Coaches online at thecondocoaches.com. More of the Condo Coaches is coming up next.
Attention men under the age of 35. You know what really impresses the ladies? When a guy has a few drinks and later gets pulled over for buzzed driving. That could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. There goes let's grab dinner and a movie. Oh, I know. You drive more carefully when you're buzzed. You've proven that hundreds of times. A woman admires that kind of confidence. And you've practiced how to speak if a cop does pull you over. Slowly, clearly, and politely, like, "Good evening, officer." A woman admires that kind of foresight. And what woman doesn't find it adorable that you call it buzzed even though the law calls it drunk? You could kiss $10,000 goodbye, along with any chance of having a girlfriend. Because nothing says I'm a catch more than a guy who lives in his parents' basement and calls it my place.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Condo Coaches, online at thecondocoaches.com. Here's your host, Johnny Torres.
Hey, thank you once again, listening, watching the Condo Coaches Radio Show. And if you're watching our stream right now, you're probably wondering, what the heck is Johnny doing? I'm actually digging through my messenger bag here, because our next email actually comes from somebody who has a question about delinquent fees. And so what I want to do is show them our booklets, okay? Because, we could avoid phone calls, emails, all that stuff completely if, Beverly, who reached out to us, thank you so much for your email, Beverly, if she just goes back to the website and signs up through the playbook section. That's thecondocoaches.com/playbook, and I'll hold these up over here to the camera. But if you go to thecondocoaches.com/playbook, again, that's /playbook after thecondocoaches.com. That's going to take you to a web form, very easy to fill out. And when you fill out that web form, basically it just gives us just some basic information so we know that you're a human, you're not spamming us or anything like that. And then what we do in return, as a sign of gratitude for visiting our website, we actually send you these 2 copies of these booklets. And so we email them to you in a PDF that's very easy to download and very easy to print. It's not a very large file either. And the first booklet, which has been I want to call it our bestseller, even though these have been free online, but it's our most popular one. It's the top 10 things you need to know if you are a COA or an HOA board member. That one we've printed thousands of. Dean, thank you so much for doing that. And then the one that Beverly needs to read into, and it's a light read. I mean, if you're looking at it here through the webcam, you can see it's a light read. I mean, you could read it, in a commercial break. And it's collecting delinquent COA and HOA fees. And this is good not only for board members, but it's also good for the residents because they understand the process. And I think when everybody understands the process, I think that eliminates a lot of problems.
We had I've had a number of, because we work with board members and by unit owners.
Yep.
And I've had several unit owners recently contact us where they say, I have been making the payments. I have copies of the check, but they don't have them. And the management company won't return my ... So I made a spreadsheet, which I've emailed to 3 different people so that they can put the date, the check number, and all that, and then attach their copies and shoot it off to them and say, I want my account reconciled. And I always advise on that side to for sure do that in writing with the check numbers, with the check copies, because then it's not just, I've been paying. No, here's the records.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and again, we've said this also in a lot of the shows where we've talked about insurance claims and that sort of thing, where you have to keep documentation on both sides. Just to protect yourself, and it's one of those things where you hope you never need them, but in this situation, obviously they do. And this is a very similar situation, with Beverly here. She said that she needed help because the management company is saying that she's delinquent when she's not. And there's a refusal there to correct her record, and so they're claiming that she's delinquent on her fees. And so, Beverly, thank you so much for sending in that email. I know somebody's already reached out to you and is helping you through this, but that was a great opportunity for us to talk about our booklets, which we've got 2 more on the way of these that are also going to be great, and then we're going to have a download here that we're going to talk about in just a minute. Let's knock out one more question here before we kind of get into really, I think what's going to be the focal point of the show, which is community finances, but within the frequently asked questions umbrella. So this comes from Teresa, and Teresa says she lives in a condo that shares a carport, and the neighbor's daughter apparently smokes in the carport.
I knew this would. I saw this. I forgot. I should have told you that one.
Yeah.
We'll see how good she is on her feet.
There we go. Good. And so trial by fire here with Candace.
Bring it.
So the neighbor's daughter smokes out in the carport. So obviously they don't allow her to smoke in the home. Mm-hmm. But I guess she has COPD. And the smoke, I guess, is still getting into the neighboring units. They're able to smell it, or it's coming into the units somehow.
Okay.
And so, obviously, is there any type of action that can be taken there, even though she's smoking outside, not inside the home?
Well, a couple of different things come up there. The association can absolutely regulate smoking to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. So if the area where the daughter is smoking is a common element, so if it's owned by all of the owners, then they can pass reasonable rules and regulations, and the board can do this. It's not a membership vote, saying where you can or cannot smoke. It's got to be reasonable. You have to provide them with an area, but you can say, maybe not within 20 feet of a door or a window or something like that, so that you don't have that issue with smoke spreading. If it's not a common element, so if it's a limited common element, which a lot of carports and balconies are, meaning the unit owner doesn't own it, but they have the exclusive right to use it. Okay. That's a limited common element. Or if it's an actual limited element, if it's part of a unit, then the association's ability to restrict the smoking there is much more limited and would probably require a full unit owner vote of the association.
Because at that point, they're almost telling someone what they can or can't do with their own unit.
Right, exactly. And there are associations that are completely smoke-free. We see that more down in South Florida, especially Southeast Florida. There are entire associations, no smoking anywhere inside or outside. It's very, very difficult to make that happen for an existing building.
Well, when we talked about that, we got a similar question, I guess, a few weeks ago. where they wanted to implement some smoke-free areas in the community.
Right.
And so you're saying that it's harder once the building's kind of been there a while, and
Right, exactly, because it's hard to tell people what they can do with their property,
Sure.
with their unit. But if it's by the pool or if it's out in the common elements, then the board of directors does have some authority there to take to say, we don't want to inconvenience our other residents who might be non-smoking or might even have a medical condition
yeah.
that would react to the smoke.
Well, and as we've said before, it could be, as simple as communicating, going to the neighbor and saying, hey, look, I have medical problems. Is it possible that maybe your daughter can smoke,
Right.
a little bit farther away,
Sure.
Maybe at the park, or maybe, out in the street, somewhere where it's not going to obviously creep into Teresa's unit.
Yes.
So, well, thank you again, Teresa, for that great question, and we hope we were able to help you there. And again, I mean, build that relationship with the board, see maybe, or even just talk to your neighbor. And your neighbor, I'm sure, is very likely to be understanding of your medical issues. But starting that communications process, I think, will give you a better idea of certainly what actions you can take in that situation. We've been talking a lot about finances. We've been talking a lot about the economics, right, of running an association. And we even, again, came up with a whole booklet on collecting delinquent fees. We've stressed often how the delinquent fees in an association falls on the remaining homeowners. Tell us a little bit about some of the situations we're seeing come up a lot more. Is it kind of like a trend in terms of like a certain time of year where all of a sudden this kind of comes up, or is it because they're doing their paperwork for taxes? I mean, it seems like we're getting a lot of this right now.
Well, Candace will talk it legally, but I'll give you practically.
Yeah.
We joke about this because there's so many questions about collections. One of the things that every board member ought to recognize, whether they're sending them to their attorney, a collection company, or however they choose, collections are not like a great Cabernet red wine. Every day they age, they get worse. So quicker you get a hold of them, and she'll talk about, I'm sure, about selective enforcement and all that. But right now we're going to have a download this week on where you put your total units, you put your total dollars in your budget and everything. Then you put your delinquencies in there. And we've had several people that have gotten this download, and they go, OMG. They sit there, go, I cannot believe that every paying unit in this particular one was paying $2,000 a paying unit for those that didn't pay.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Well, and you've broken this down to a very simple worksheet, Excel spreadsheet, right? That people can just fill out and it'll do the math for you.
Yeah.
Right.
And we've got that. And the big thing is getting on top of it. There's some of them you can't do anything about. Candace and talk, people that die without a will.
Yeah, I mean, there are certainly cases that are going to be difficult to collect on.
Right.
My position has always been every unit, every delinquency is collectible.
Yeah.
I can't tell you when, and I can't tell you that it's going to be 100%, but every single account needs to have some collection event. And you're absolutely right. The sooner the better. Those younger delinquencies, the ones that are, 90 days or, even up to 6 months, those people still have the ability to pay in a lot of cases, or the incentive to pay. But once they get past a certain point, it just becomes impossible for them to catch up.
And why is that? Is it because just the dollar amount?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I mean, if you think about it, if you're struggling a little bit, or you lost your job, or, you had just a lack of employment, or maybe you forgot, maybe you were, you're a snowbird and your mail didn't forward correctly, and you get 3 or 4 months behind, well, maybe that's $1,000.
Right.
And we can set up a payment plan, or the association can set up a payment plan so that you can get that caught up in the next 12 months. And that's affordable. If you're 5 or 6 years delinquent and all of a sudden it's $10,000, not many people have $10,000 sitting around that they can pull out, or that in their monthly budget to even get caught up in a realistic payment plan.
Not to mention that at that point, you've gotten either a collections agency or a law firm involved that is doing the collections on your behalf, and then those fees and interest and all that start to pile onto that.
Right. I mean, the statutory interest is what most associations have in their governing documents, and that's 18% per annum, $25 per month.
All right, we're doing frequently asked questions, talking a little bit about community financing. More on this with Candace and Dean here on the Condo Coaches radio show. Coming up.
Contact the Condo Coaches online at thecondocoaches.com. More of the Condo Coaches is coming up next.
Life is full of bittersweet transitions. It's difficult to know how these changes will impact us over time. For some people, difficult transitions like retirement, divorce, or loss of a loved one can hit harder than expected and may contribute to feelings of hopelessness or even thoughts of suicide. The risk of suicide is even higher for men over 50 who served our country. Guys like me. That's why support from friends and family makes such a big difference. Every day, your actions could help save a life. Together, we got this. Learn how you can help save a life at veteranscrisisline.net.
Welcome back to the Condo Coaches, online at thecondocoaches.com. Here's your host, Johnny Torres.
Thank you so much. Joining me as always, head coach Dean Akers, and back once again, Candace Gundel, our legal coach. Thank you so much for joining us again, Candace.
My pleasure.
We're talking community finances right now because it is kind of a trending topic here in the Condo Coaches. We have been getting lots of emails, phone calls, and even social media questions about how to deal with various financial aspects. Let's kind of dig into the one that seems the most prevalent, the one that is also maybe even the easiest to resolve, which is it seems like there's boards out there that are being unwilling to share the financial documents of the association. Give us a little insight, Candace, because I know you said you were dealing with this morning.
Absolutely.
And so tell us why this comes about. Where does this originate from? Why that kind of resistance to share that information?
Well, under both 718 and 720, both of our statutes for condos and HOAs, the association is required to maintain official records. Part of that are the finances. And so unit owners, homeowners, are entitled to that information. And we find that people like, I believe it was Beverly earlier that wrote in, was having the issue with her account, or people who are just curious, they don't have access to that information. And there is a statutory way for them to ask for it, but we see a lot of associations resist providing that information willingly. And it's very frustrating. What happens when you have that miscommunication, that lack of communication, is the person requesting the information always assumes the worst.
Sure.
They assume that you're hiding something, or you're stealing, or there's just something going on nefarious behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely important to not only maintain those official records, make them available upon request, but I strongly encourage people to make it available, in meetings. Pass it out at meetings.
Have copies, right? Have a handful of copies every meeting.
Absolutely. A lot of associations have websites. We're looking at possibly an amended Florida statute this year that's going to require certain associations to have websites and have that information available.
Okay.
Technology's come a long way where you can make that available just to unit owners through a login portal.
Well, yeah, because I know if you're in a rental situation, I mean, there's property management companies that have there where you can actually track all the payments you've made. And you can see that, that when you paid it, how much you paid every single month. I mean, I don't see why association fees would be any different.
Right, exactly. Now, there's a cost for maintaining that.
Of course.
But it's something that certainly would be worthwhile for larger communities.
Well, and the digital tools are all out there. We talked about this when in the communications episode, which was, all these free tools that are out there like Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive, where you can put all these documents up there and just send out the link, let everybody download them whenever they need to and just keep them updated whenever possible.
Right.
What's funny now, I'll have some issues going along and I'll call the board president or something and say, hey, look, could I do this, da-da-da? And they go, yeah. I said, can you send me a PDF of the financials? And they go, let me see. Now, these are not just elected yesterday board presidents.
Right.
So they call their property management company and they call me back and they go, oh, I can do that. They shoot me a PDF and it has everything I need.
Right.
They never look at it. They had it always available. if I was association president today
Yeah.
and somebody said, I need a copy of the financials, I'd have one every month. My management company shoot me that PDF and I go, email, please. Bam, bam, bam. If
Right.
they said, I don't have email, print document. 10 pages later, bum, done.
Well, because again, I mean, I think, be it the treasurer or be it the president, or if you have a secretary, I mean, the minute you get those, you should just send them right out to everybody.
Well, here's the crazy thing. I'll see people arguing about it.
Yeah.
The amount of effort, forget money, the amount of effort that's expended in arguing, they could have sent 15 different ones out to different people.
Sure.
It's just, I don't get it. I don't get why, if it's available per statute and there's a 5-day or whatever there is, and
Right.
somebody's just looking for it and you have it in a PDF, why you just don't go ... send.
Right. One small caveat, I will say this, is when you're sending out the financials to just a unit owner in the community, not somebody that's not on the board, don't include the specific accounts that are delinquent.
Right.
Just include the summary. They don't need the full report
Right.
that the board has access to. But the summary that you're talking about, 8-10 pages for most associations.
Make sure you have like a public-facing version of the document.
Right.
What I always, the ones I've gotten, okay, balance sheet, income statement, and statement of cash flows.
Yeah. that's
Those
what
are standard reporting of any, I don't care whether you're a condo or you're General Motors. Just send them out.
Yeah. Well, and as you said, oftentimes because there's whatever tension there is in between residents, and there's already some mistrust. There's already a lack of communication. And this only exacerbates that, right? When they kind of hold on,
Yeah.
and say, no, I'm not going to give you a copy of this.
Right.
That only exacerbates those problems. And before you know it, you end up with a sheriff at your board meeting.
Yeah. One thing I would encourage our listeners, especially board members, and we've offered this free. If they don't understand their financials, don't be embarrassed.
Right.
Send a request for us to do an analysis, and we take year on year cash flows. We do a balance sheet analysis, which is the snapshot way to really know the health of your association. It is not the income statement. And when I go back and finish it, I go back and I say, hey, you're very healthy. Or, whoops, what is this line item? We had one recently. I asked 2 line items, which were 160 grand. So it wasn't
Wow.
rounding errors. And nobody had a clue what they meant.
Oh, geez.
And I don't have a clue what they meant. I've never heard of the description that it was.
But at least now you've kind of zeroed it
Yeah,
down to,
it's like,
all right, there's a problem here. Let's kind of figure out what's going on.
And they were liabilities. So that meant they were something that the association was going to have to deal with, either pay or something. But the name on the balance sheet and the amounts, there was nobody knew anything about it that on the board.
Okay.
But it was 160 grand. So
Sure.
again, it wasn't a rounding error.
Right. And so in those situations, right, where because we've offered, we'll come out, we'll do the financial assessment for you. We'll even do a little bit of a financial education seminar on these issues. Do you find that typically that kind of gets everybody back on square one, or there's some prolonging issues that continue from there?
Once the board knows how to read their balance sheet, most of them just look straight at their budget and income statement.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. They show collecting $60,000 this month as income. That's pretty typical.
Sure.
Whatever the amount is, the average 1.2 million, so it's 100 grand. 100 grand that month they show as income, but their receivables grew by 50 grand. That means they never looked at their balance sheet. That means they really only collected 50 grand of those sales. So they're 50 grand in cash short.
Wow.
So that means there's a plumber that didn't get paid, or somebody didn't get paid.
Yeah.
Well, it's in the balance sheet. It's very obvious, but they're looking at their budget to income statement. They're going, one of them asked me the other day, but Dean, we made 40 grand, but we're broke. And I went back to the balance sheet, and she had never looked at it. And I said, look at how your balance sheet changed this year to this year. You had a growth here of this. You added this liability. You've actually taken cash from your reserve and used it to pay.
Geez.
No, don't do that. No.
The management company did it.
Oh,
It's a
no.
due to, due from. And yeah, not a good
business.
program.
Bad business.
Bad business. bad business.
And so was that at the direction of the board or did the management company said, oh, here's money and let's just take it from there?
I actually don't know,
Okay.
but based on what I know, I would hazard to guess the board they didn't have the wherewithal to understand that transfer. So
Right.
I don't know how it happened. Doesn't even really matter.
Yeah.
What the point I'm trying to make is we can help as condo coaches. If somebody feels uncomfortable with their financials, just send the year-end 2016, year-end 2015 balance sheet and income statement, and we will give them a review that they can take to their CPA or their management company and really sit down and go, what's happening?
Well, and then again, also, we're going to provide that worksheet on the website, in case they want to, just figure it out themselves.
Well, no, that's a worksheet for the accounts receivable problem.
Got it. Okay.
But the balance sheet, like I said, I found $100 and something grand on this one balance sheet.
Yeah.
That nobody knows what it is. I'm sure it's all legit. Nobody's
Sure.
doing anything illegal. But the fact
Without the paper trail, though, it's hard
Yeah.
to know where that went.
those items, because their liabilities growing, are generating cash. So a board might think, oh, wow, we're okay cash flow wise, but it's like a loan that keeps growing on your credit card. Somewhere, somebody's going to want that $100 and something grand.
Well, and the one thing that we've also said before is that really the only responsibility that the board has is to run the community association financially. I mean, that's really, at the end of the day, their primary responsibility is to manage the financial well-being of the community.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why we're offering it no charge, or to send a coach out to help them,
Yeah.
whatever. We have great CPAs around the state of Florida. They know it cold. The problem is they oftentimes don't know you don't know it cold. So when they give you your report, everybody looks at it and goes, thank you, Bill, for the report. And you might as well handed it to them in Swahili.
Well, nobody wants to be the one asking the dumb question, but at the end of the day, again, it's not a dumb question if everybody else has it, and if nobody on your board understands the financial statement. You can't operate that way. You need to educate yourself on the process.
And we'll get some coaches to help them. But and then we have Candace, for the legal sides, because you should have seen those that are watching us on video. You can see Candace's face when I said they were taking money out of the reserves and funding the general operating and just doing a contra account that it's owed.
No, don't do it. Don't do it.
Oh my gosh. All right. We're doing frequently asked questions with head coach Dean Akers, our original condo coach, Candace Gundel, who's also our legal coach. And we're here waiting for you to send us more questions. So again, if you have something you want us to address on the show, be it on this episode or a future episode, we love getting those questions, those scenarios, because we know that sometimes we can help you figure those out, even just right here talking about it on the show. So reach out to us. Our website is thecondocoaches.com, thecondocoaches.com. Our email address, help@thecondocoaches.com, help@thecondocoaches.com, because as I like to say, that's what we like to do around here is help. And of course, you can also reach out to us via phone, and Dean checks those voicemails every 15 minutes.
I don't have to. It texts me.
Yeah, exactly. So we're trying to stay on top of your phone calls and your emails, but that phone number is 813-331-5415. 813-331-5415. Final segment of the Condo Coaches coming up.
Contact the Condo Coaches online at thecondocoaches.com. More of the Condo Coaches is coming up next.
With everything you've done to lift up those around you during your military career, we're not going to let your money concerns get you down. We're the NFCC, and we've got your back on this one. As your financial advocate, we're dedicated to improving the financial health of all members of the military community. Whether your debt issues are related to student loans or housing, or involve credit cards, our goal is to help you to defend your financial future. NFCC certified credit counselors have already made the difference for thousands of military members and their families. Let us make a difference for you and yours. Schedule a confidential financial review with an objective nonprofit NFCC financial counselor. Call us today at 877-404-6322. That's 877-404-6322. Or visit us at nfcc.org/military. You owe it to yourself. Get relief now.
Welcome back to the Condo Coaches, online at thecondocoaches.com. Here's your host, Johnny Torres.
Thank you so much for listening or watching the show. Again, you can catch up on past episodes just about anywhere online. Facebook.com/The Condo Coaches is our Facebook page. All of our episodes are on there because we actually stream live to Facebook. And we try to get that up on Monday at 1 o'clock. And so if you ever want to catch us live, that's how you can find us. Also, you can get us on YouTube. Just search The Condo Coaches. We come right up. Number one result, The Condo Coaches, when you search on YouTube, and you can catch all of our videos there. Lots of great information. And we are also dissecting each of these episodes into smaller videos to make them a little more digestible, hopefully answering that one question you absolutely had to get answered. And then, of course, we have the podcast version, which is also a lot of fun to listen to. If you have a commute, it's great for your commute. You can do the download or the subscription at soundcloud.com. Stitcher podcast is a platform that you can also listen to the podcast there, or of course the famous iTunes. You can find us on iTunes, so look us up on iTunes also by searching The Condo Coaches. We were talking about community finances and some of the more frequent issues and questions that we get on that, and so to kind of bring that to a close, again, we would be more than happy to do a financial assessment. Again, tell us what you need when they reach out to us for a financial assessment.
What I need them to do is go to the help at thecondocoaches.com and fill out a request saying
email us.
Email us, and with their phone number is the easiest, and
Okay.
then I can email them back and tell them what we need. And they email it back, and it takes about a week because we have some of our condo coach accounting people and different stuff because we reconstruct it. So it's not just looking at it. We reconstruct it so they can use it. And it takes a week to a little bit longer, and we'll get it done for them, and they'll be real happy with the results.
Well, and it's kind of like hitting the reset button, right? Because now you can look at your community's finances with a fresh set of eyes and truly know exactly what you're working with.
And you're going to get an opinion from somebody that's a business person that looks at tons and tons of businesses, that's going to give you the facts. And like I told one board member was talking to me about it, and he was going, well, you da-da-da. I said, listen, the cool thing about this is everybody's entitled to their own opinions, but they're not entitled to their own facts.
That's right.
And it was pretty eye-opening.
Well, and Ken, tell us a little bit about the worksheet. We're going to have it up on the website for people to download. This is more for the delinquent fees and for them to know exactly how much of these fees they're passing on to all the residents.
Well, I see these balance sheets with big numbers on them, and I know they should have already been reserved. But once I see that number, or once you have that number, you'll see the worksheet. When you put it in there and you put your total number of units that have not paid, it shows you to the penny what all the paying unit owners have stroked a check out of their pocket to make the budget net zero.
Right.
And like I told you, we've had several that are in the thousands of dollars. The average one's probably around $500.
Okay.
So that means if you're up for $500 extra dollars for all your neighbors that aren't paying, then start a community chest.
Yeah.
Do whatever.
Well, and again, I mean, your community works off of zero-based budgeting.
Right.
And if they're falling short, guess who's paying for it?
Yeah. And by the way, I told some guy this the other day, I go, this is real money.
Yeah.
This is real money. This is
Right.
coming right out of your checkbook. This isn't some, well, it could happen. No, somebody's stroking a check because you're paying the mowing guy, you're paying the pool guy,
Yeah.
you're doing all that. So somebody's stroking a check.
And if you're wondering why things aren't getting fixed or repaired or maintained in the community, that's because the money's going elsewhere.
Yeah, most of the times it gets done.
Yeah.
And so the people that are paying pay it because the budget has to be adjusted.
Right, exactly. But I mean, those are dollars that could be going towards improvements and other things, but instead now they're covering for those delinquent fees.
Yeah, and this is a great time of year to start looking at it. I mean, I know it's a dirty word, but budget season will be upon us before we know what happens.
That's right.
I mean, you really think about it, most of us start looking at our condo HOA budgets in August. And then you've got to have them pass, usually somewhere in November if you're a calendar year. So now is a good time to get the knowledge, get the information, get the refresh done so that you're prepared to write that new budget for next year.
Well, and
Don't let it go another
you can make
year.
adjustments. You have all the time in the world really to kind of get in a better situation.
Right.
All right, so let's change gears a little bit, and this is a topic near and dear to my heart because I love pets, dogs mostly. Nothing against cats, I'm just a dog person, but let's talk about dogs in the community. And I know we could probably and most likely will do a whole show on this, but let's get a little bit into this because we have heard from some people who are having issues with having their pets in their community, and of course that brings up a ton of other issues. But is there a difference between the way a service animal is handled in a community and just a pet that someone keeps at home?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a huge difference between service animal and pet. And, kind of for the purposes of our abbreviated conversation here, I'll reference mostly condominiums because they tend to have the more strict controls on pets. And for good reason. You have more shared common elements than you do in a single family home. So for condos, almost every declaration will have some sort of pet restriction. And they'll say you're allowed to have 2 animals and they have to be domestic, and you can't have a wild horse in your unit. Things
no
like
tigers.
No tigers,
Sorry,
things
Mike
like
Tyson.
that. Right, exactly. And a lot of associations will then have a weight restriction.
Okay.
Now you can have 2 dogs, and each dog can be up to 25 pounds. I see 25 pounds and 40 pounds.
So you're saying I'm never getting my Great Dane?
You're not going to get a Great Dane probably in a condominium association. Now, what happens is we want to enforce those rules. The board has to enforce those rules. But when someone has a service animal, and whether that's, an actual service animal because of a documented disability such as a seeing eye dog, you're more traditional, or it's an emotional support animal, which doesn't require the same licensing or training. Federal and state law protects those individuals and allows them to have those animals.
Right.
So in most cases, you're going to have to allow that pet.
That will almost always be an exception.
Almost always.
Yeah.
Where you get into, for instance, if somebody says, oh, our association has a 2-dog rule, and they have 2 dogs, and then they got a 3rd dog, and that 3rd dog is their support animal.
Sure.
They probably can't do that.
Okay.
You can probably...
Because they'll say, well, you had 2 slots here, and you filled them both up with non-support dogs.
Right. What happens, though, is weight restrictions and breed restrictions go out the window.
Okay.
So if somebody wants to have an emotional support Great Dane or seeing eye dog Great Dane, they can.
I know a guy who has an emotional or support dog, and it's a Doberman. Which is a little frightening, but
That'll support you.
Now, but I mean, I had our first dog was a Doberman. I mean, it's an impressive dog, but I mean, still, it's not common that you see a dog that large serve as a support animal.
Right. Well, and the other thing is you can still have reasonable rules and regulations.
Okay.
So you can still say the dog can attack other people. If it does, you can have it removed.
Right.
The owner still has to clean up after their dog. They still have to keep it on a leash.
And that's probably the biggest problem, right? That stems from pets in the community.
Right, exactly. The dog has to behave itself, and it has to be fulfilling that purpose for that individual. But as long as it is, it needs to be allowed in the community.
Now, let's get into something that I learned recently about, because I have a friend who's in security, at sporting events and things like that. In terms of documentation, in terms of what the board is or isn't able to ask, I mean, there's some sensitivities there. There's some legal things that they have to be aware of in terms of verifying whether or not these are support animals?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Now, you can still require, for instance, I have an association in St. Petersburg that I work with, and they require all the animals to be registered with the association, whether it's an emotional animal, a service animal, or a pet.
And what does that entail?
That means you've come in, you said, I have this breed dog, it's this age, it's this name. Here's my contact information if anything happens. Here's the fact that it's validly registered in the county, and it's up to date on its shots. And they can require that for every animal.
Right.
So whether it's an emotional or service animal, you still have to fulfill those requirements. But if you come in and you're asking for an exception because it is an emotional or service animal, you can ask them to provide documentation, which generally is a doctor's note that says, yes, this person is under my care. This, animal is necessary.
Okay.
Do not ask why it's necessary. You're not entitled
go.
to their medical information.
Right. At that point, you're violating like HIPAA laws and things like that.
Right. They have a doctor that signed off, says it's necessary. That's what you get.
And that's really, the doctor knows that that's about all he's also legally able to divulge.
Correct.
Okay. And so, because again, I mean, you have board members out there that obviously are going to want to, they're going to be scrutinizing the situation as much as possible, but for them to also know that there are legal boundaries as to what they can and can't ask.
Yeah, and I had this question come up about 2 weeks ago talking about service animals, is if an owner's child, it doesn't necessarily have to be an owner. If you have an owner whose child is living in the unit with or without the owner and they're entitled to the service animal, or if it's a tenant, they're entitled to the service animal.
Okay.
They're guests. If they have somebody come and stay for the weekend.
So it applies to anyone that's there in the community.
Anyone that's there legally.
Okay.
So if somebody's trespassing, no.
Yeah.
But anybody that's there legally,
Right.
you have to extend that to them.
All right. Well, as I said, I'm sure we'll probably do a future episode on that, but I wanted to kind of start that one since we did have a few questions on that particular topic. Again, if you have questions, we'd love to hear from you, and we're going to probably do these every month. We'll do a frequently asked questions show. You can reach us at thecondocoaches.com. Download our 2 free playbooks right now, thecondocoaches.com/playbook. Thank you so much for watching and listening.
You've
See
been
you next
listening
time.
to the Condo Coaches, brought to you by lmfunding.com. Find us online at thecondocoaches.com and join us this same time next week as we help you navigate life in your managed community.